So welcome to the Eastpointe Movie Discussion Group. So there are a few new faces here. I'm Ed Katz, and I do marketing and public relations by day, but I've been a theater and film critic for a few years on WICC in Connecticut and also online. And you can follow me at Katz Reviews on Facebook and on YouTube as well. So first thing I want to make sure to tell everybody, this is the discussion for Billy Joel, and so it goes, the documentary. So if you haven't seen it, there will be spoilers. And I'll tell you, next meeting is going to be October 23rd, and we're going to discuss, first ever for our group, the TV series Adolescence on Netflix.
Oh, Rebecca's clapping.
All right. Okay, so if everyone can make sure their phone is silenced, and if you're on Zoom, if you can mute until you're ready to speak. Okay, great. All right, so first off, as we always do, I want to get a sense from a show of hands, who liked the movie? Okay, did anyone not like the movie? Everybody. Wow. All right, everybody liked it. Okay, very good. All right, so at some point later on, I'll discuss a critic who did not like it, and I'll give you his reasons, and we can kind of go over it, but we don't have to do that yet. Okay, so what was your favorite thing about it? Let's, anyone want to jump in with that?
Music.
The music? Okay. Did you hear anything that surprised you?
Yes. That he, I recall, I watched it 2 months ago.
Okay.
That he married his, I think it was his friend manager's wife. And his first wife.
Right. His best friend at the time, he ended up marrying John Small's wife. Right. That was a surprise. Yep. Yes, Leslie.
I thought that I didn't realize that every single song he wrote was a story of his life. Every one from start to the finish was the story of his life.
Of his life or people he knew is what he said. Yes. Right. Exactly. Yeah. Pretty amazing, right? Yes.
Oh, I didn't know how deep his classical composure went.
Oh,
His
his
background.
classical compositions and his background. Yes.
Sorry,
I was gonna say too, how he incorporated that into so many songs.
with
His
fantasies and
classical
Right.
background.
his album.
Right. He said he even ripped off Rachmaninoff here or Mozart here. Or, yeah.
He gave them
And he
credit.
gave
He gave
Tchaikovsky, I think it was, he gave Tchaikovsky credit on one of the other records. Yes, he played very young. And you know, it's kind of interesting, the comparisons between Billy Joel and Elton John
Yeah.
and how they ended up working together, and then they had their falling out, and then they got back together. He had a lot of that in his life because he had that with his band, with his producers, with his wives. So I think there's a pattern there.
Even
And they were so young.
Adored him.
Yeah. All right. So the directors were Susan Lacey and Jessica Levin. I wasn't I knew Susan Lacey's name, but I wasn't real familiar with her. She basically was one of the original founding producers for PBS's longtime series, American Masters. She also did the documentary Jane Fonda in 5 acts, if anyone saw that. And she did a documentary on Steven Spielberg called Spielberg, along with producing many other documentaries. She's won 14 Emmy Awards. Her co-director and co-producer was Jessica Levin, who's collaborated on all the projects I mentioned. She's won 2 Emmys herself. So they're certainly experienced in doing documentaries and portraits, as you know, of famous celebrities and artists.
Did anybody see the cat?
I think you're coming through on there. No.
Yep. Can you, Dorothy, can you hit the mute button, please?
Yes, I will.
Thank you. All right. So Billy Joel is now 76. He's released 12 studio albums from 1971 to 93. In 2001, he released something Amanda just mentioned, a album of classical compositions. And he sold over 160 million records worldwide. He's not only one of the world's best-selling music artists, but the 4th best-selling solo artist in the United States. And little trivia question. Can anyone guess or remember how many wives he's had? 4, very good. Yes, okay. All right. So I guess, what do you think of the situation with his wives? Anyone want to comment on that? Because that was a big part of the movie, because which is kind of amazing. All 4 of them agreed to be interviewed for this documentary, including his first wife, Elizabeth Weber Small, who managed his career for basically the first 10 years.
I didn't see the second part.
You didn't see the second, so you missed some of the wives. Okay. Right. Well, did they have Christy Brinkley in part
Yeah.
1? She was in part 1?
She was in part 1.
They told me it'll be on tomorrow night. I
Okay.
think that's too late.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's on HBO Max, but yeah, if you're waiting for HBO, you got to wait till it comes around. Yes,
So-
Barbara, did you want to say something?
The Christie Brinkley. By
Right. Okay. All right.
They all was open and but they just loved him.
Right.
And they still, the way they talk about
Right. They still talk about him very positive. Yes, ma'am.
He's crazy altogether, and his 3 wives loved him also. They were
Charlie Sheen.
Oh, Charlie Sheen. Yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's a whole other documentary. Yeah.
Very disappointing.
Yes. Yeah, and then we could do the Charlie Sheen one too, but I didn't love it. I didn't think it was great, but okay. So interesting how he literally crashed and burned several times. His marriages crashed. He imploded several times. He literally crashed, had accidents 3 times in 2 years at one point. And yet there he is in the movie, and to his credit, he told Susan Lacey and Jessica Levin, be candid, be open, be honest, make it objective, cover everything. He didn't want to leave anything off bounds, which for a documentary where the subject is participating is kind of rare. That doesn't happen a lot. Usually they're going to want to hide certain things. Now, if someone mentioned the Charlie Sheen documentary, anyone seen the Charlie Sheen documentary yet? You guys haven't seen it. Okay. Okay, if you have, okay. Several important people did not participate in that documentary, and I think it was to the documentary's detriment. His father, Martin Sheen, did not. His brother, Emilio Estevez, did not. And he has 4 kids. 2 of them did not participate and 2 did. So it made it incomplete. And on the TV show he was famous for, 2.5 Men, only John Cryer and the creator Chuck Lorre participated. John Cryer was very candid, but Chuck Lorre was guarded.
in all fairness.
Well, they had lawsuits back and forth. So
She died. Conchita, is that her name? Conchetta, the.
oh, Conchata Farrell, yeah, she died. Right. But right, but here, really, everyone you'd want to hear from in the Billy Joel show was on camera, and they agreed to be on camera, and they were very candid on camera. Christy Brinkley breaking down several times. It was very emotional. It was powerful, and I give them all credit for doing it and being willing to participate. What I thought was interesting, and you mentioned it about each of the songs coming back to something in his personal, usually his personal life. But if you go to the Piano Man, and wasn't that a cool story of how that came to be? He couldn't record under his own name because he had the contract dispute with Artie Ripp, who was ripping him off, fittingly enough, with his name. And so he had to go under a pseudonym, which anyone remember his pseudonym he picked? If you're a Yankees fan, you might remember that. Bill Martin, right? Billy Martin, right? Bill Martin. And he was at the Executive Lounge in LA, where Elizabeth, his wife, was working too. as a waitress. She was the waitress practicing politics. But he was just basically giving lines for each person's story. So it was kind of fascinating, and that's where it came from. There are some interesting critics' notes that they talk about that one. I want to see if I can find it. Okay, yeah, I do want to. Okay, this is the Rolling Stone one. Okay, yeah, this is good. This is good. Okay, so the Rolling Stone review was a positive review, but not 100%. The summary from David Brown of Rolling Stone, who wrote this in July of this year. For all its infomercial moments, including a few too many testimonials and scenes of cheering fans in concert halls, it also has moments of startling candor, rare for the current state of authorized music documentaries. But I want to see if I can get to the part about Piano Man. So I think it was in here. No, it was a different review, sorry. Oh, I know which one it was. Okay, 1 second. Okay. Okay, here it is. So this is from a negative review, but he said, all of which brings us back to Piano Man, probably Joel's most beloved song and indisputably one of the most enduring pieces of music of the rock and roll era. As someone who still reflexively recoils at its opening harmonica riff, I found the documentary successful in helping me hear Piano Man in new ways. It's not a bad song, its melody is beautiful, and thematically it has real richness and ironic meditation on the darker and less glamorous sides of making a living through musical performance. It is on some level a song about a guy who's been asked to play Piano Man too many times, which is a very fair statement. And even though Joel first recorded it in 1973 when he was still a relative nobody, it's hard not to wonder if even then he suspected he'd be playing it every night for the rest of his life. It's a terrific idea for a song, the bones of which recall another Los Angeles-based piano man of Billy Joel's vintage, the great Warren Zevon, a master of the sort of ragged and sardonic self-deprecation that the concept might lend itself to. He goes on to criticize Piano Man, saying, but it never really gets there. Throughout the song's duration, we're given almost no interiority for its protagonist. Instead, we're treated to a litany of characters, all of whom are cataloged as dutifully as We Didn't Start the Fire recites his history and sketched nearly as thinly. Personally, I've got a whole story about I've never met him, but my relationship with his music goes back to being a teenager when I had a summer job at a top 40 radio station. Happened to be the summer of 1978, and he had like 4 hits on, and they were all in heavy rotation. So I'm hearing Billy Joel all day long, 9 to 5 on the radio, one song after another, every single day, 5 days a week for the whole summer. I wasn't a big fan by that point. It was like too much. At first, the first couple of days, wow, he's really good. It's a great song. And it's like, oh, this guy again, enough. Oh, the song again. I got real sick of it. A few years later, I had a girlfriend. This is well before I met Ann. She was a big fan, and she wanted me to take her to see Billy Joel. So we went to see Billy Joel, and I appreciated him as a terrific performer and the rest of his songs that I didn't hear that summer on the radio. And then, of course, when I met and married Ann, she wanted to go see Billy Joel. So I'm like, here we go again. But okay, so he was terrific. He was terrific. So okay, so I want to read you what the critic said that was kind of negative and share, and because I want your comments on it, because it is kind of fascinating, I think, what he said. One of the things he talked about was Paul McCartney. Anyone remember Paul McCartney's line in this movie?
He wished he had written.
Right. Very good, Barbara. The song
Right.
he wished he wrote.
He wished he
Stuck
wrote
the
it.
way you are. I mean, can you get a higher compliment? Paul McCartney wishes he wrote a song
Right.
he wrote. Doesn't get much better than that. All right. So this is from Jack Hamilton in Slate magazine, and it's titled The Entertainer. Billy Joel is one of history's most popular musicians. So why do so many of us hate him? All right. Does anyone here not like him or his music? Okay, everybody does. Okay. All right. So he says, I don't remember exactly when I discovered I hated his music, but it was sometime in middle school.
Oh, please. You know, this guy sounds like such a blowhard. I'm
Well,
sorry.
hang on. You'll hear his points. You'll hear his points.
I'd
So
like
anyway,
to
he goes-
see him write a better song than Billy Joe can write.
he said he was himself was a relatively proficient young piano player, and he was asked for the 10th or 100th time to play Piano Man. So he wasn't thrilled about that.
Oh, what a shame.
All right. So he said, so at the time I hated Billy Joel. 30 some years later, I can't say I've really budged. I might therefore seem a strange choice to review his movie. But I sometimes love watching documentaries about artists whose music I don't otherwise like. I adored the recent Sly Lives. Anyone seen the Sly and the Family Stone documentary, Sly Lives on Hulu? I
No.
highly recommend it. It's one of the best music documentaries I've ever seen. Sly Lives, Sly and the Family Stone, and you'll appreciate what a genius he really was. And also a troubled character, even more so than I think Billy Joel. But anyway, he said, I've also never needed convincing that Sly Stone was a musical genius. And then he talks about seeing History of the Eagles band, but I find myself impossibly compelled by the musical odyssey of a band that I've barely spent a second listening to of my own volition. But he said his colleague in Hit Parade did an episode about Billy Joel, and it's one of his favorite entries in the whole podcast. Okay, so he says, it helps me learn more about the world and the tastes of people I share it. It thus gives me no pleasure to report that And So It Goes is a disappointingly underwhelming music documentary. I'll hear why. Clocking in at nearly 5 hours, it's indefensibly long and exasperatingly short on formal inventiveness. I don't know what he means by formal inventiveness, I admit that.
He's just
The
being
film-
a snobby critic.
The film's first part methodically takes us from Joel's musical upbringing on Long Island to his lean and hungry 70s years to find commercial success before breaking through with the mega blockbuster The Stranger. The film features interviews with many of his current and former collaborators and band members, as well as musical luminaries ranging from Pink to Bruce Springsteen to Nas. And I have to admit, I was totally surprised Nas and Pink were in there, but okay. And Nas had great things to say. He was very thoughtful in his comments. I just thought it was a surprise he was included. It might be a loaded compliment to say that And So It Goes is at its best when it's not actually dealing with Joel's music. The segments on his childhood and family history are genuinely moving, and the revelation of a pair of suicide attempts in his early 20s is handled carefully and without a whiff of sensationalism. Joel also opens up about his imperfections as a husband and partner, and the discussions of his numerous failed marriages are unusually frank for a film of this kind. And it says several of Joel's exes are interviewed, but actually all of them were. Discussions of Joel's musical output, on the other hand, feel mostly superficial and beset by the sort of hyperbole that's the coin of the realm for these sort of documentaries. Rhapsodizing about Joel's smash LP Stormfront, Garth Brooks asks in an awestruck whisper, how many other artists do you know that late in their career that have an album that effing moving? It's a rhetorical question, but given Joel was not exactly ancient at 40, when he released it, I'm sure many of us could venture a few answers. No one could ever accuse him of being a bad musician. He's an unmistakably talented singer and instrumentalist. And yet, although the propagandistic nature of the movie isn't unique, it's practically obligatory for contemporary music documents. In his case, it feels like a missed opportunity. During his commercial heyday, he was routinely savaged by critics, often accused of effectively being a human jukebox stocked with pale facsimiles of other better music. For Joel's part, he was notoriously obsessed with these negative reviews, prone to reading them aloud on stage to audiences who would lustily jeer the nefarious critics in absentia. This is an important aspect of his story and an interesting one. And while the movie addresses it, it's always with an unsatisfying mix of dismissiveness and defensiveness that follows his long-held approach. Rolling Stone ran an interview with him in 1980 in which he claimed, bad reviews don't bother me, but a lot of these critics are looking for art. The thing that got me about that was people who are looking for art in rock and roll or pop are looking for something that either doesn't or shouldn't exist there. I don't know if I agree with that, but that was what he said in 1980. Would Billy Joel look any of the fans in the eye who collectively shelled out a reportedly $266 million for his Madison Square Garden shows and tell them that celebrating his music as art makes them some sort of rube? Of course not. It's a defensive refrain whose contradictions seem to betray unresolved tensions in what he himself feels about his legacy, rather than what he thinks other people should. Okay. Okay. All right, so he says, one second. He says, after a 5-hour movie and a 50+ year career, what's potentially beneath the surface still isn't enough to stop me from just looking elsewhere. Okay, I agree. Sounds kind of churlish. But anyone think he has any valid points there?
No,
No.
no.
Okay.
It's,
right.
it just feels like somebody who wants to hear themselves put somebody else
Pontificate.
down who is more talented than he would ever be.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
I mean,
his only valid point was this one. No one could ever accuse Joel of being a bad musician.
thank you, Amanda. That was the one, yeah, thank you.
You know,
All
and
right.
one thing I think is, you know, documentaries, I'm a big music fan. So
Okay.
documentaries are, you know, life story, whatever, but to me, you have to get back to the music. All this superior, you know, his music is what is important, not than the stories. And I just found it and I've seen him like 7 times. Okay. But I think that the way in which he came up with the stories and the music and the way he composes and the way he got his ideas, to me, was the documentary. I do also think it's incredible that none of the wives threw him under the bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, remember, he was giving his approval to this.
I
don't know if
understand.
that influenced.
Yes.
I think that's a gray area we don't know and we'll never know. But
Right.
yeah, yes, Barbara.
The part about Christy Brinkley, she did the cover of The River. She painted it.
Right, that's right.
Financed it. He was broke, and that's why they split up.
Oh, wow. But that was the album that had Uptown Girl, right?
No.
That wasn't the album that had Uptown Girl? Oh, okay, okay. Okay.
So she didn't tell them. Why?
Right, see?
Why they split up? He was broke. Okay. She financed it and did the cover artwork even.
Yeah.
So, and subsequently, from the circle of people that I knew, that's why they broke up.
Well, she was saying how she didn't know where he was. She'd have to call bars to find him.
Right.
He was perfect.
He was.
He had his demons, no question.
Can't, that's why we have marriage constantly, you know, looking for someone, whether they're dead or alive. She couldn't deal with it. She couldn't do it.
Right.
You can
There was a line he said, which I can hope I can find. There was a line he said about his relationship with music to make it work. He said basically it's he had to give himself to it to the detriment of everything else. And that he meant everything else, his family. Yeah. And then he said, you remember how he said, how to get good? What you need? The ability to recover from mistakes. Right at the beginning. So and that's what he did. Yeah, here he is. He said, you have to be completely dedicated to the detriment of almost everything else. And this was his life. And at the end of the movie, he said, not any of his wives, music saved my life. It gave me a reason to live. So, I mean, if you're his wife, you may not like hearing that, but that's what he said about himself, that's his highest priority. So therefore, everything else was secondary.
Well, music was the one constant. He had numerous wives.
Right. His first wife did save his life. Yes. Sorry.
Oh, I said music was the one constant in his life. You know, he went through numerous wives, but music was always there. I thought it was also very cool that his daughter Alexa Ray is so talented and his
Yes.
little girls are so talented.
Well,
And
not only
his
that, what about his
His
brother?
brother is a conductor
An
and
orchestra
looks so
conductor.
much like him.
Right.
I couldn't believe it. It was incredible how,
Oh, yeah, well, you didn't see part two, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
his brother is the conductor of like the Austrian Philharmonic Symphony Orchestra or something.
Yep, his half brother with his father, who he tracked down in Vienna, and he wrote the song Vienna. Really, he didn't admit it at first, but he eventually did in the documentary that Vienna was really about his father. Vienna waits for you. Okay, and where we go here?
Ed,
Yes,
Ed,
sir.
he did a documentary or a film called Billy Joel Black and White. I happened to take a peek at that, and he talked about the classical connection, and in particular Beethoven. Beethoven was progressively deaf, and yet
Right.
even at the end of his career and his deafness, he was able to create gorgeous, wonderful, world famous music. And so he said really to the audience, "I'm Beethoven. I have these thoughts in my brain. They just occur, and Beethoven carried a pad around with him also to write things down, and he did that also. So I think that he had a mission here, and I think he wanted to maybe to support his legacy, but he wanted to tell us what his style was, what his brain was all about. It was special, and he really thought he was connected and similar to the classical composers and to Beethoven in particular.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense. And I think part of it, I think if you would agree, was to kind of connect himself to his father, who so loved classical music.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But I also think that's what makes his music endure. His reference to classical music, like when he was playing a song, he said, and I could make it sound like Rachmaninoff. You know, it's the depth of his musicality makes him a standout, a legend, and his music just, you know, continues to be, you know, as good as it is. It's not trendy.
Right. That's a good point. Even the critic who didn't really like it said he thought his music could be, you know, you could listen to it years from now and it'll still feel current. Yeah. It's not going to feel so dated. It was kind of interesting that he stopped writing pop songs. He essentially did. I mean, he did a collaboration with a fan who somehow got to him and affected him, which they didn't put in the movie, but it happened. But and do you remember what he said? And first off, what bothered me was he didn't really say how he wrote the song. He goes, somehow I just wrote all these songs. Well, I'd like to have known more than that. That's me, but that kind of bugged me. But he did say later on why he stopped writing, quote, "I didn't want to be a slave to the tyranny of the rhyme." That got to him after all those years. He felt it was ripping him apart. So that's why he wanted to stop. Oh, yeah, well, that's, I don't even want to go there, but yeah, okay. All right, and then he changed his producers a few times. He worked a lot with Phil Ramone, a legend. And then he went, this was a weird choice. He went to Mick Jones from Foreigner. Did you guys even know Mick Jones was in Foreigner? A couple of you. Okay. So we saw Foreigner one time with Cheap Trick. Mick Jones was the last member who was still in the band. Kind of a weird choice. So I looked up what other music did Mick Jones actually produce? Well, but it was never said how he chose Mick Jones of all people, how he even knew him, never mentioned. But Mick Jones produced a Van Halen album, 5150, not their best, but still a pretty big album. He produced a Weak Bad Company album called Fame and Fortune. That was way after Bad Company's prime. And a Ben E. King album. And those were his real, other than producing the Foreigner albums, which were very big. I'll give him credit for that. But it just seemed like a strange choice to go with Mick Jones for an album. And then he changed to producer Danny Korchmar, who I did briefly meet years ago because Danny was good friends and recording buddies with a buddy of mine, Charlie Karp, who's passed away, unfortunately, but a terrifically talented musician. And Danny recorded with him, and Danny was a real producer. And Danny, if you remember, Liberty DeVito from Billy Joel's band, hated Danny Kortchmer because Danny said, "You got to get rid of the band. I want to use my guys for the recording session." Remember that? And
Yeah.
Liberty was furious. The whole band was, and Billy Joel never really told them. The musicians just heard about it. They're like,
Yeah,
so Danny,
that was
Liberty says, so I
kinda-
called him up.
Danny did a bunch of work with Carole King and James Taylor.
Oh, tons of musicians.
work.
He was a terrific producer. No question. The Mick Jones was the one I questioned about him picking, but yeah, Danny Kortchmer is a terrifically talented producer, and it worked out great. But then Billy, brought the band back together, of course, for the touring. And do you remember after he stopped touring, what brought him back to touring? Anyone remember the key moment? Has to do with the number 12. 12, 12, 12. The concert after the storm.
Oh, right, the Sandy
After
Hurricane.
the Sandy benefit concert.
Right,
He
the
brought the
12,
band
12,
back
12.
together, did 4 songs at Madison Square Garden, and his booking agent, Dennis Arfa, said, "We could do this on a regular basis with Madison Square Garden."
Right.
And then he set the record, over 100 shows, one a month for
Sold
over
out.
a decade at Madison Square Garden. Pretty cool, right? So give his booking agent, Dennis Arfa, a lot of credit on that. And actually, you got to give his first wife credit. When he was starting out, she made the decision to book a 3-night stay at Carnegie Hall, which sold out. How about that, right? And that's what really got Phil Ramone involved. And then they got out of the contract with Artie Rip. So, but yeah, I mean, he's got a whole slew of damaged relationships in his life. But like you said, music is what kept him going. That was the biggest one in his life that worked. Okay, so did anyone feel that this documentary changed your opinion of Billy Joel at all? Either favorably, unfavorably, or just favorably? Okay. Anyone else?
I-
One
It
sec.
showed his humanity,
Showed his humanity.
and that he is, despite being ripped off by so many people.
Yeah.
He isn't vindictive, he's forgiving. And accepting. And I found that incredibly difficult to believe that someone could just forgive somebody, like his first wife's brother who ripped him off, right?
Yes.
That rebel guy ripped him off.
Right. Already read. Yep.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah.
So, and he's not vindictive about it.
Well, also it helps that he's got like $500 million now. You can be forgiving about if you got ripped off within your younger years, I guess. But yeah, but okay, yes.
Oh, I was gonna,
Tell me,
I was,
Amy? Go ahead, Amy.
I was gonna say it enhanced my opinion of him. I always loved his music. And hearing the backstory and how talented his mother was and his father and his classical music training, I just was really impressed with, and what he went through, how he was like the only Jewish boy in this neighborhood and he was picked on, and just I thought it was a very endearing story.
I'll agree. And I also want to point out, did you guys hear the story about the Jewish star? You didn't see part 2. You missed that. So he's been wearing not always, but in a lot of the scenes, you'll see he has a Jewish star on his jacket when he's performing.
Yep.
Front and back? Oh, I didn't see on the back. Okay, front and back. Thanks, Sheila. Okay. And that's a kind of a tribute to his father's family in Austria.
Well, he did something with the yellow star. He wore that yellow star or something.
Yeah, he wore the yellow star
Right,
as a
yeah.
tribute to his father's family in Austria. Yeah.
right.
The other thing is, I didn't know, I think he's a savant. I think he's
Yes,
got the.
Musical savant. Right.
Yes, and I
absolutely.
did not know that before seeing the documentary.
Yes, Marty.
I know he's a real nice guy, but he did sue somebody for $90 million. You do remember that in the movie?
He sued
Yes. So I mean, just a nice guy suing for 90 million.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, who did he sue for
No,
90?
it was the guy who ripped him off.
Yes.
Artie, right, and he
He sued him for what he was owed.
right,
Yeah, I didn't
Right.
think that was bad. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
he didn't forgive him.
yeah.
Well,
that's a,
what
that's a
would you
very
have
fair
done?
point.
He was also the godfather of this.
That
I
doesn't make
mean-
him a bad guy. He
Yeah.
just wanted his money back.
Yeah, it's just rough.
I mean, what would you do if somebody ripped you off for 90 million? You think he's a bad guy because he sued somebody for $90 million
No.
that he was owed?
No,
No.
no, it's understandable, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, Barbara.
Several times within the documentary, that he only wanted to be concerned with the music. He did not want to be concerned with the business.
Right.
So if you allow yourself as an artist not to know where your money is going and how it's being taken care of,
Right.
you've made your own death.
Will say, and I know this because some of you know, I'm friends with Rick Nielsen from Cheap Trick. The first contract you get, you will be ripped off. That's the way it is in the music business because you have no leverage. You're trying to get a deal, you'll take almost anything and you're stuck with it until the contract's up and then you renew and then you've got some leverage because by that point you've got a career and some hits.
Well, here's the other thing. Ed,
Yes,
these are
do you mean?
musicians. These are not they're not natural business people.
they're
Their
not natural business
acumen
people,
is
right.
in the arts and in whatever music they're playing. So to expect them to be savvy business people too, I mean, it's like multiple.
Well, that's what he had
intelligence.
Elizabeth for at that point, right?
Yeah. I mean, I don't expect an artist to be a savvy business person too. You know,
Right.
I don't expect a business person to be a musician. So
Right.
they're taken advantage of more often than not because of that.
Right. Okay.
Ed,
Yes, 1 second, yes.
Elvis Presley get ripped off?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Colonel Parker, absolutely ripped him off. Yes, ma'am. Okay,
We'll come back.
all right.
Ed,
Yes, and
you asked what like surprised us or what, stuck with us. He certainly was a multi-layered character who was amazingly talented and had not just talented, but had a great fund of knowledge in music. But I thought what was really interesting is how the documentary took you on a full circle. That in the beginning, I don't remember exactly when, he talked about his relationship with his father and how he didn't really approve of him. And it seemed that throughout the whole movie, he was really hoping he would get his dad's approval. And but at the end, when he retired, he devotes his life to being a good father now.
right,
So
he wanted to atone for the mistakes he made with his other kids where he wasn't ever around.
Right. So I thought that was kind of, an interesting full circle event.
Right, I would agree, yep.
Mary has something to say.
Yes, Mary, you got on mute. Go ahead.
I was surprised to see the amount of insight he developed over his decades of life. A lot of people never come to the realizations and the ability to self-reflect the way he has. And I wonder to what extent that came from his alcohol and drug rehab, because if he did a 12-step program, he had to learn how to forgive in order to eventually
That could have been explored,
able
true, of
to-
course, it was already 5 hours, but yeah, but that could have been explored.
Right. Well, it didn't need to be. It was just my summarizing. But as I watched both sections, I was impressed by the way that at least eventually he became an adult. But if
Right.
I were a child from a prior relationships, part of me might feel, well, nice for that half sister or half brother of mine, but
Right.
didn't help me out much.
Right, true, but remember those young kids, their father's in his 70s.
Yeah,
Who knows how long they're gonna have him? So,
that's true.
yeah.
That's true.
Yes.
There's another factor we haven't discussed. Who is responsible for the documentary? In other words, we hear the story of his life, which is marvelous and unique. I haven't heard a word about
the people who are responsible for writing this documentary.
Well, I mentioned them in the beginning, Susan Lacey and Jessica Levin, they're the,
They wrote it
well,
or produced it.
they produced and directed it. Yes, Barbara.
Sean,
Well, they were executive producers. Yeah, I was gonna mention them too. Tom Hanks, Sean Hayes, and there was someone else too, whose name I didn't recognize, were executive producers.
they
But
got the money.
they get the money to make sure it gets made, right? But it was Susan Lacey and Jessica Levin who really made the film. They produced it with their background in working on PBS documentaries and with Billy Joel's full cooperation. Yes, ma'am.
He was not the easiest person to live with. You know.
I think you could get that sense. Yeah. Absent. And he was absent from the time he was 7.
So he was in a home, some highs and lows, and anybody in a business that takes the time that it does to become successful, it's hard to share any other time with other people.
Right. I think it's kind of interesting. I wanted to touch on this. I mentioned it briefly earlier, his collaborations with Elton John. Because Elton had his own demons too. So you've got these talented geniuses who have a self-destructive impulses. That's gonna be interesting. Tech man, Mike.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Sorry, we got a notice about it. It's a battery running low, so we're just gonna try to remedy that while we're still going on. But do you remember how Elton John reacted to him? There were some comments that, and Elton's always done this. If he's unhappy with someone, he will tell the press. And he did. And he said he thought Billy Joel was just mailing it in at some point because of his drug use or alcoholism, whatever it was. Yeah. And Billy Joel wasn't happy about it, but I don't know, that doesn't necessarily mean Elton was wrong, right? But they were collaborators. They did these tandem concerts for a long time, over 10 years, which is pretty amazing too. And two very, very talented guys. So my brother-in-law had asked me a couple of times. He said, all right, who do you think was more talented, Billy Joel or Elton John? And I want to ask you guys, what do you think? Billy Joel, raise your hand if you think Billy Joel is the more talented. Okay, and who thinks Elton John's the more talented? All right, it's pretty close to even. My take, and I'm actually a bigger Elton John fan, but my take is Billy Joel's the more talented. The reason being, he also writes the lyrics. Elton John has Bernie Taupin, who's always written all his lyrics. Billy Joel does it all.
Question: who's a better performer? That's the question.
Okay, I would say Elton John may be the better performer. But having seen them both, Billy Joel is an excellent performer. There's no doubt about it.
I could make a recommendation that if somebody wants to watch a really old live show of Billy Joel's when he was in Russia, it is fabulous.
Do you know where it is, where we could find it?
You know what? I'll find it for you, but
Okay.
it's of course he's aged over the years, but I just think that is, I'll find it for you guys, but I think that's one of his best performances ever.
Billy Joel in Russia?
In Russia. I'll find it and I'll send it to you, Ed, if you can send it out to everybody.
Sure, I can put it in there.
Yeah.
Yes, Carol.
I think it was in the 90s, 1990 something, when we saw them together, Billy Joel. And I remember thinking, who do I like better? You know, when you hear Elton and the piano, they're so good, both of them. And I could never remember. I said that to Joel. Which was who?
Who was that? Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Both.
I think that's kind of the reason they could do it for so long, is that no one was clearly better because the other one didn't feel slighted, right?
We saw them at Giant Stadium with 50,000.
Wow, Giant Stadium. Okay. It was nice. Nice. All right, good. So do you now there was a part where, do you remember, I don't remember the guy's name, the Asian piano player?
Oh, yes.
Jew, I think his name was, right?
Yeah.
Kim Jew, something like that.
Yeah.
He was in there. And do you remember why Billy Joel had him in? Why was he playing Billy Joel's music and not Billy Joel? Anyone remember?
He's classically trained.
He was classically trained, exactly, Larry. And Billy Joel was not, and the piano player himself said of Billy Joel, he's a great piano player, but it's like asking a ballet dancer to break dance or vice versa.
Right.
Which I thought was a great line because that helped me understand it better because it's just a totally different style of playing piano. But it surprised me at first. I didn't expect it because Billy Joel plays several different styles of piano.
Yeah.
So it was still a surprise, but I understood it better once I saw the two of them explain it. So that was kind of cool.
You can see.
Yes, ma'am.
Just gonna mention that most all musicians take a lot from classical music.
Yeah.
All their writings
Right.
can be thrown back to one of
Yeah. Yeah, there's some inspiration, rip off, whatever you want to call it, homage that goes back to classical music. Sure, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Anyone want to guess how many songs were used in the documentary? Within 5, just see if you can guess.
97.
You're pretty close.
What?
Wow.
110.
Wow.
110 songs were used in the background, in the foreground, all over the place.
Wow.
Pretty impressive, right?
Ed,
Yes.
did he read music?
Oh yeah, he did. He was doing that. He would write it
Yeah.
on the sheet music
Oh,
pads.
but he played by ear in the beginning.
But he played by ear. But yeah, but he could definitely read music. Yeah. Yep.
The Billy Joel Russian thing is on YouTube.
YouTube. Oh, okay. Thank you, Mary. I don't know if you heard that, or Lisa. I don't know if you heard that. Joel just found the Russian concert is on YouTube.
Lisa's.
Yeah, Lisa. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, it was me. I'm just saying it's a excellent people who are a fan, it would make you even more of a fan.
Oh, I'm gonna look for that.
Excellent. Okay. And so it's going to be harder to see him now because he's got health issues. Anyone remember what his disease is?
Is it some dizzy thing?
Go ahead, Amanda.
Normal pressure, hydrocephalus.
Hydrocephalus, yes. Yeah. So he can still play, but he really isn't going to be doing much touring. So, he,
Is this
Vegas?
yeah, he was supposed to do a Vegas thing, right?
Is this something that's curable that can?
I
that
don't
will
think
go
so.
away?
I think he's got to live with it. Shunt in and they drain it. Okay.
So get it